Well, every day something happens that just reminds me that I shouldn't be allowed near any technology. And if you accidentally saw the other tweet that had the other link to the stream, you may have encountered one of the effects of that. Yeah, okay. But we are here. We're here today. We're here now. And I got the fade out. I got the fade out. We're here now. We're fading out correctly. Everything is good. And we only have an hour together today. So I thought we would just sort of jump in. We've got two things planned. The audio is good. Thank you, Lucy. And okay, so two things planned. Thing number one, we're going to do another lesson from this Brandt textbook of classical Chinese. So that's going to be good. And then the second thing, which perhaps is even more exciting, is we are going to start making a second language family to coexist with our Call language family that we've been working on. And the idea is that this language family could be kind of could give us some languages which would form a substrate for the Call languages, to explain perhaps why such a robustly SOV proto-language turned into a bunch of more or less SVO descendant languages. And so this new language is going to be very strongly analytic. It's going to be SVO, and it's going to take its inspiration from like Southeast Asia. I think that's the basic plan. So let's get started. We are going to Oh, no, I've got to do my little segment intro thing first. Okay. Welcome. If you're watching this on YouTube, this channel is all about language. It's all about linguistics, language, and in this case, learning a very particular language, which is classical Chinese. If you haven't seen the earlier videos in this playlist, go check them out. I really encourage that because it does somewhat progress one onto the next. But even if you haven't, you should probably be able to follow along because I'm a beginner. So you can follow along with me and let's learn classical Chinese together. So where is my side view? There we go. Okay. So this is, we're working out of a textbook called Introduction to Literary Chinese by someone named Brandt a long, long time ago. And we are on the fourth text in this textbook. Let me move this over here so you can see it. And we are actually, everything works in a very, very confusing way sometimes. Again, this is another one of those instances where, me put with some user interfaces is a bad combination. Okay, so here we go. We have our text on the right. This is the modern Mandarin version of the text, so we can ignore that. Here's our text on the right, and unfortunately, because of the orientation, I can't quite fit it all in on one screen unless I zoom out a bit. Yeah, let's zoom out a bit. So this is what we have. This is our text, and I've written it all out in this little Google Sheets over here. So let's arrange our windows in a way that makes some sort of semblance of sense. And let's look and go line by line through this text. I think we can zoom in a little. Okay. So we'll primarily be using this left pane, the sheet, because that's got everything copied out. If I made any mistakes, if you notice anything that I've copied incorrectly, it has happened before, just let me know in the chat, or if you're watching this later on YouTube, in the comments, because we're all learning together, and any source of information, I just take it. So let's begin. So this is a short text, a short passage, and the title is 不是字. And we have a little vocabulary here. So why don't we pull that up? Let's pull that up so that we can take advantage of all the work Brandt has done. And let's just go through sentence by sentence and sort of gloss as we go and make some attempts at a free translation. So we have here 不是字. So this is going to be something like, we had this 不 in a previous lesson. This is a negative marker. So not. 是, I believe, is something like familiar with or acquainted with. So not familiar with, and 字 is characters, written characters. So not familiar with characters. And I think, do we have some help on this in here? Do we have help on this? I don't think we do. Well, nevertheless, I believe that's a good translation. So, since it's a title, we could say something like on not knowing characters as a first attempt. And just a reminder, if you're watching live, feel free to shout out suggestions or corrections or ideas. Okay, so that's the title. Next, we have a sentence, 山有虎害人处, I think. And what are we going to do with this? Well, let's take a look at our vocabulary. So we have, first of all, 山, meaning a hill or a mountain. I think that's a pretty cool character for that. I see it. I see where they're coming from with that one. So mountain, we can gloss it. 有, meaning to exist or to have. So you could say something like exist. 虎, tiger. That's right here. Oops, that's right here. So mountain, exist, tiger, hi. We had this in the very first text, I believe. It was harm. Ren, person, and then chu. And chu is going to be translated. Brandt gives us these helpful suggestions when something's italicized. This is the meaning that is intended in this text. So instead of to rear or to feed, we have cattle. So, cattle. Okay, so what are we to make of this? I think in this kind of construction, my understanding would be that the very first noun phrase, shan, would be kind of like a locative existential. So in the mountains there was a tiger. So I think that's the tack I'm going to take here. We don't get any help on this, but I'm relatively confident in that. So in the mountains, something like that, there was a tiger. And then we'd translate the rest of this, I think, as who harmed people's cattle. And this, I believe, if I'm remembering my terminology right, is something like a pivot construction. I think this is what Pullyblank calls them. So there is a tiger, and the tiger, so you can sort of see why it's called a pivot. In the mountains, there was a tiger. But also, the tiger is the thing that harms the people's cattle. So this tiger, this noun phrase, is serving in one relationship with respect to the first verb phrase here, and another relationship with respect to the second. So that's why it's called a pivot. I think I'm explaining that more or less correctly. So, and we can translate that with a relative in English. Okay, what's next? 猎人谋捕虎. So what do we get? What do we have for that? So 猎 is hunt, 猎人 a hunter. So let's call it hunter, and then we have 谋, to plot or to scheme. So the hunter scheme, and then what's next? Note that I'm using Hanyu Pinyin rather than Wade Giles romanization, so that's why there are some differences in how these things are romanized, which actually makes transcribing this a little hard because, yeah, the two systems are relatively similar, but then there are a few little pitfalls, which if you see that I've fallen into any pitfalls, let me know in the comments. Okay, so we have seize. So the hunter schemed to seize the tiger. Okay, I don't know if this is one hunter or more than one hunter. Let's just say a hunter schemed to capture the tiger. All right, what's next? 射仅以4只. I think that this is 4, but we also have two readings here. One which is 4 and one which is, I think, what is that going to be? 4, right. So I'm not sure which is correct here. I'm going to go with this one because it's written first. And the meaning of this is to wait upon, spy, or to waylay, which is very charmingly spelled with a hyphen in the 1920s. So let's, what do we have here? What do we know so far? Something. We have this particle which we talked about last time, which is E. And here we're given this really helpful hint that here it's indicating the purpose. So let's just say in order to, and then waylay. It is not a URL. Google, no, not a URL. Don't make it look like that. Oh dear. Okay, now we see what's happened. I've fallen victim to my own lack of... Okay, now we're going to this random website. Everything is totally fine. Everything is fine. How do we get rid of this link? Goodbye. Okay. Okay, it's back. This will be fun fodder for the intro, Lucy. In order to waylay, and then we have it, this third person pronoun. So that we could just call it for the sake of readability. My pop filter is moving on me. Okay, what are these other morphemes we have here? 设经, 设 to set up, to establish, or if supposing. I think what we're dealing with here is to set up. So set up, and then what is set up? A jing, a pitfall, a trap. Oh my goodness, I've been struggling with this issue of apostrophes because, you know, exactly we want to talk about stress, we want to mark stress, we're using apostrophes, and then suddenly Google Sheets interprets it in a different way. It's madness. Okay, so set up a trap in order to waylay it. So this hunter, we could just say he set up a trap, or he set a trap, I guess would be the better way of translating it, in order to, and I'm just going to keep waylay because I love it. And in fact, let's get in the spirit of things. To waylay. All right, next up. 大书墙上约. 大, we have big. So big, 书, a book. Also to write or written characters. And those are two rather different word classes there, so I'm not sure it's giving us both. Let's just say, let's assume it's a noun for now because we have something that looks adjectival in front of it, and we can always be wrong about it, but there's 墙上. So 墙 is wall, and 上 is on top of or above. So on. And I remember 约 is our quotative marker, meaning roughly say. So maybe this does need to be a verb. Big. This is interesting. So either it's something like Bigly wrote on the wall the following, or big characters on the wall said. I think I'm missing something here, so I won't dwell on it too much, just register my confusion. And but the meaning is quite clear, I think. Something like in big characters. Maybe this is it. In big characters on the wall, he said, he wrote, something like this. Some of you in the future, in the present, are going to be screaming, "Oh, Colin, no, it's quite obvious. It's this." We'll see if I figure it out. And then what do we have next? 下有湖景. So 下, below, and this is another one of these constructions like we had above, isn't it? Where we have some sort of location word, then yo, and then the thing that's at that location. So below, or that exists in that location. Below was tiger trap, or below exists a tiger trap. So there's a tiger trap below. And no, I shouldn't add these exclamation marks when it's not strictly warranted. But I want to. It feels like something I would exclaim. What's next? Okay. 行人止步. 行人, we have a nice translation here, a passerby. So passerby, let's call it that. 止步, literally stop a pace, stop your step. So we get this translation stop or be careful. Just say stop here. So passers by, stop. So there's a tiger trap below, passerbys, stop. What's next? 乡人不是智者. Okay. So we have a nice little grammatical note here for us. So this part, 不是智者, it's telling us to compare lesson 1.1 note D. And let's do that. And I have so helpfully added these notes into the earlier lessons. So we can find, so in this case, 着 gives a participial force to the preceding verb. So it seems to give us an action or an agentive kind of nominalization flavor. So let's see what we've got here. So 乡人, 乡人, a villager. Oops, what happened? It's also a bit hard to see when I'm typing with this thing in the way. I'm not normally this bad. Well, you'll never know if I am. Okay, so a villager who does not know characters, and then this nominalizing suffix. A villager feels like this shouldn't have a period after it. I know. Let's see. Let's go back to the text. But it does. Maybe it's more like a comma. Because then we have this next clause here. 过江下. Oh, that should be 江. Because we have 过 pass, 江下, below the wall, pass wall below. And so we have, how are we going to translate this? A villager, like, here's what I want to say, and I want to figure out how to get this meaning out of it. I want to say a villager who did not know how to write or read passed by below the wall. How are we going to get that? So the question is, villager, that's good, and then one who did not know how to read, something like this. Or maybe this is a kind of copular construction. So the villager was one who did not know how to read. Maybe we can use that. And we can say, let's just go with she this time, passed by below the wall. And then what's next? 误触之. 误, to make a mistake. 触, to tread on or to kick. So I think we want tread on here, and that's what it tells us. So something like by mistake she trod on it. Trod. Then what's next? Oh, I need to move this so you can see. When I move away from the mic in order to drink, I feel like the chocolate rain guy. I don't know. What was his name? Tay Day? I'm not going to do an impression, don't worry. I don't have the pipes, frankly. 坠井上足. So, 坠, fall down. So fall down, and this is the trap, the snare. I don't know what we were calling it. Let's just call it a trap. Shang, shang to wound or injure, and zu is the foot. Or, ironic, or enough, sufficient. Colin moves away from the mic to read. Deep cuts from the early days of YouTube. If you were there, you know. Foot. So she fell down into the trap and wounded her foot. Oh no. All right, what's next? 大呼求援. So here we have da again, meaning big, great, very, or much. 求 to beg. I missed who. Who to expel the breath. I can see why, right? Who? Yeah, anyway. Or to call out to. So she... Oh yeah, what was the last one? So great. Call out. Beg and yuan. Assist. So she... something like she cried out loudly to loudly. I'm stuck on this loudly. Loudly to beg for assistance. Then what's next? 寄出. Oh dear. Oh dear. Brant, you're not helping me here. To finish, since, when, or a particle of completed action. Whenever we get this thing, it's a particle. It's just it's a challenge. It's a challenge. But I guess that's the point. Okay. A particle of completed action. When we have these two options before us that Brant gives us. Let's see what else we have. Chu, to drag out. Okay, well maybe this is going to be something like when. And I'm gathering, perhaps, that all these periods in the source text are not what we would call full stops. I think they might be interpretable as commas, because what else are we to make of this? If this is when, and we get the translation drag out, there's not much else we can do with that. We need more. And I think we get more next. So we have 人之墙上书告之. So this is going to be person, something, wall, on. We can call this writing. Gao. Gao is something like inform, I think. Where is it? Do we have it here? We don't have it here. Maybe we had it in an earlier lesson. I think it's inform. Let's take a look and see if we have it in our lexicon. Ha! I've also been clever, and I've made a little lexicon. All right, so let's see if we have a... Oh, okay, yes. It was from lesson 1.2, which will be in video 2 of this playlist, and it's tell announce. Okay, good. So to tell it. And so we just need this j, which I believe is finger. I want to say finger. Yeah. Finger, or what do you do with a finger? You point things out. So let's see. All right. Okay, so then we can probably translate this whole thing as when she was dragged out, pulled out, dragged out. We'll just go with it. Sounds unnecessarily harsh. The person, presumably who dragged her out, pointed out, or maybe you could say people. People pointed out the writing on the wall. This might be another one of those pivot constructions, which announced it. It being the danger, I guess. And then we have another little bit. Hello, Adam. Welcome. Then we have another little bit. 乃探约. And I remember this 乃 was something like then. Which, if we go to our note C of lesson 1.2, where is it? It is used as a... We gotta just adjust this. A consequential particle. So we translated it as, or we glossed it as thereupon, translated it as then. So we can just take the same strategy. Thereupon, tan, to sigh. And then we have this quotative. So we could translate this as then she sighed and said, what did she say? 无狗之书. And 无 is I. It's first person pronoun. Go is if. 知 being, we had this before, this is to know. And 书 is, this is why we have two. This is why we have both to write and written characters here, because it's used in both senses. So if I know right, let's just finish this off because this is a full, this would be the full sentence, these two together. 启智子哉. And we get two notes here. So it's telling us first that 启 is an exclamatory particle implying a negative of the proposition conveyed. So that would be something like, I think in the, translate something like English, wouldn't I do this, or shouldn't I? This kind of negative exclamatory particle. I don't know. We'll have to, let's see it in context. We have also at the end another exclamatory particle. So the crucial bit of the meaning will be the middle. 至, to go at, to reach. And 子, which is a demonstrative. So we can say something like this negative exclamation mark, this negative exclamatory particle, and then 至. We have actually a lot of different diverse meanings here. To go at, to reach, the end, utmost, best. I think maybe we should use to go at. And it's going to make it into a URL. I know it. I'm just not going to worry about it. To go at this, exclamation mark. So I think this is something like a counterfactual conditional. If I knew how to write, would I have gone something like this maybe. If I knew how to write, would I have gone here? I don't know. What do you think? Any alternative interpretations? We can take a look at the actual answers that Brant gives us and see how we've done. And when I say we, I mean I. I take all the blame for all the mistakes. Go.at is an Austrian phone company, and you love it. You love a phone company? Wow. This is interesting. This is not something I've ever experienced before. Okay, so let's take a look at the translation that Brandt gives and check our work. Yay, okay. So I had on not knowing characters, Brandt gives us something a little more concise, which is illiterateness. Let's write it here so we can compare. Great. There was a tiger in the mountains who devoured men and cattle. In the mountains, there was a tiger who harmed people's cattle. Okay, well, I have interpreted this as a kind of a genitive construction, but here it is, my old terminology, my old grammatical terminology needs to come back to me. Is this a dvandva compound where you have two things together that mean X and Y? I think it is. As opposed to a tatpurusha compound, which would be what I interpreted this as, the cattle of people. If you've never heard those terms before, I will do a video at one point about compounds, and that'll be a good excuse for me to refresh all these Sanskrit terms, which are extraordinarily fun. So I think that's, I would say that, we did okay. I never like to say I never like to put myself there where I'm saying something good. It seems unhumble, but anyway. So maybe we could say who devoured men and cattle. I'm not sure if this is if the translation I gave is a viable alternative or not. But maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Moving on. Hunters planned to catch him and laid a pitfall in order to waylay him. Okay, I just gave it a singular hunter, but I think that the text is agnostic as to number. Okay. This was a slightly difficult sentence. So, upon a wall, they wrote in big characters as follows. Okay. So the meaning is the same, but I think the interpretation, maybe this da is being used as an adverb. So yeah, this is that bigly interpretation. This in a large fashion, they wrote as follows. So let's see if this is decently OCR'd. Maybe I can just copy and paste it. Not bad. Don't think we need this nearby. Here below, a pitfall for a tiger is laid. There's a tiger trap below. Great. Let passersby be careful. Passersby stop. Fine. And then this was a tough bit. What does it say? A villager who was an illiterate man was passing under that wall. Okay, so this is not a copular construction. This is something that we need to translate as a relative. A villager, one who did not know how to read. So this is something like two phrases in apposition. A villager, in other words, a person who did not know how to read, passed by below the wall. By mistake, trod on the pitfall, fell into it, and hurt his leg. Okay, that's all the same. That's all fine. Shouted loudly for help. Cried out loudly to beg for assistance. Great. Then, this was another tough part, but we have when. So I think we made the right choice here, with T being when. When he was dragged out, somebody pointed to the inscription on the wall and told him about it. Okay. So these two verb phrases are not that kind of pivot construction, but just two verb phrases with the same subject. So let's take this. And somebody pointed out the inscription on the wall and told him about it. Okay, that wasn't so stellar of an OCR job. Somebody pointed to the inscription on the wall and told him about it. Great. The villager then said with a sigh, if I had been able to read, how could this have happened to me? Okay, so I think I've erred with this j translation. The first clause I think is fine, but we just need to polish the second bit of the translation. How could this have happened to me? How could this have happened? Okay, let's go back and look at that one bit. Maybe reach is the better translation. So how could this have reached? How could it have reached this? How could it have come to this? I think maybe that's the better way of translating it. So I'm going to change this to would it have come to this? And then I'll just make the English a little. If I'd known how to write, would it have come to this? Maybe not. Maybe not. All right. So I think that's good. Let's end this segment. I'm going to go back to the full screen with the magic of clicking buttons, and thank everyone who's been watching and joining with this Let's Learn Classical Chinese playlist. It's very, very good to have you along for the ride. And if you like this, do consider giving this video the proverbial like and the not so proverbial subscribe. Okay. Let's go on and do some more things. Let's do some conlanging. Oh, that was a decent knuckle crack, I think. All right, we're going to do some conlanging. And what we're going to do is we are going to make a new language family. It's going to exist in the same world as the Call language family that we've been working on in the Conlang with me. So we'll do this in a separate playlist, this next one. So you don't need to have seen any of the Call languages. I know that playlist is getting a bit long, and it's sometimes intimidating to see a playlist that's already got over 6 or 7 hours of content in it. So this would be a nice place for people who want to sort of jump in at the start of one of these to do so. But they are going to exist in the same kind of fictional universe, which we will also at one point be playing with. So I'm going to probably stop doing strange dances, and I am going to do the little segment start, and then we'll jump right in. Okay. So welcome. This is a brand new playlist, a brand new Conlang with me playlist. The premise behind this kind of thing is we will make a Conlang before your eyes from scratch, and I don't know. Let's just jump in. We've got a side webcam to go to. Here we go. Okay. So I've called this new language family. I have some ideas that I'd like to start with. Here are some sort of seed ideas for this Conlang. I want it to be kind of inspired by Southeast Asian languages. The so-called mainland Southeast Asian linguistic area. What is this linguistic area all about? There is a strong tendency towards monosyllabicity, so morphemes being isomorphic to syllables. If not monosyllabicity, then sesquisyllabicity, where you have basically monosyllables, but with a little kind of half syllable at the start. So instead of being things like tom, kan, dat, it's pakom, matam, tadat, things like that. So you often have very reduced vowel contrasts in that very first part of the syllable. Often you just get schwa. Another thing in this area is tone. So we'll probably play with that. And tone is always fun to derive historically. And so we'll play with that. And what else? Yes, a very strongly kind of analytic grammar. So not a lot of obligatory morphology going on. So things like that. So let's just write it down. Sesquisyllables / monosyllables, analytic, tone, and tonogenesis, the process of tone coming into being. Oh, yeah, you can still see it. It's fine. Maybe I'll just make this a little bit bigger. Great. So that's the vague plan. It's going to be its own language family as well. We are going to be using this in the other Conlang with Me playlist, in the first one, the call languages. We are going to be is it Janssen? I'm assuming because you've mentioned Austrian phone companies that J is going to be pronounced in the German fashion. I could be wrong. Loan words are going to come in. This is going to be, or at least one of these languages is going to be one of the ones that comes into contact, exactly, Adam, with Lang 3b, which we'll need a name for at some point in the call language family. And it's going to be, we're going to appeal to contact with this language family to explain a lot of the changes that have happened in the call language family. So that's kind of cool. All right. So let's just do a little bit of phonology. We don't have a huge amount of time today. Oh, okay. Well, if it's a J, then it's a J. If it's a J, it's a J. We don't have a huge amount of time today, so I'll jump right in. We've got our IPA keyboard here, which the kind of fun part of it is obscured by my camera. If anyone has, and then we've got Brad, but oh my goodness. All right, well, here we go. I know why you guys come here. You come here to see me rearrange windows, and you're never disappointed. So we've got our IPA keyboard. We've got our Google Sheet. Let's just make some phonology. So I think let's start with the syllable structure, because this is something that's going to guide us. Shout out to Tezon Day. So we're going to want a very limited syllable structure. I'm trying not to do the same things as a conlanger over and over again. So I definitely have my crutches that I lean on. I keep going back to, or what's the better way of putting it? I have my usual suspects. Let's just say. So we have one of these usual suspects is CVC, or very simple syllable structure. So why not? We are going to have a CVC syllable structure, obviously optional. These are optional. We also are going to want to make it moderately complex. So we can have some onset clusters as long as the second element of the cluster is a liquid or a semivowel. And then that's the syllable structure, but we're not quite done yet, because I want the proto-language to be a sesquisyllabic language. And that means that we're going to need, phonologically speaking, in an abstract sense, these are one syllable. However, phonetically speaking, we do have two full vowels, or at least two vowels. Whether they're full vowels or not, I don't know. So we have a vowel here, and we'll put a little, I don't know. Don't take this dot as meaning a full syllable boundary, but this is the sesquisyllable. And this vowel is not going to allow all of the contrast that this vowel has. So we'll call it, I don't know what we'll call it. We'll call it not lowercase. We'll call it VR, meaning vowel reduced. Too abstract. Let's make some examples. So assuming that we're going to have at least pataka, mana, r, l, y, w, and s. We'll have more than this, but these are, a fairly safe bet. We will have shapes like, and we need vowels too. So let's say we definitely have, do we want to do the classic? Yeah, let's do the classic. The classic 5-vowel system. And I think maybe we can only have, so this is only a I, U. So only these more peripheral vowels in the sesquisyllable, and over the course of time, these are going to be worn down to schwa or nothing, and yada yada yada. But we're going to have all these kind of fun things. I promise. But we got to start somewhere, and let's start with just these a, I, U vowels. Often you'll find in phonologically weak positions, you will have fewer contrasts. What weak means will depend, will differ from language to language. So think of things like unstressed syllables would be a good example of this. Unstressed syllables in a stress accented language, you often see fewer contrasts in those syllables. So in a stressed syllable, you'll have the full range of all contrasted vowels, and in unstressed syllables, you can only have a few. That's a pretty common thing. And so I'm going to treat this half syllable at the start as one of these kind of weak positions. Another kind of weak position is within the reduplicant in a reduplication construction. So often you will have fewer contrasts in the reduplicant, which is the part of the word that gets reduplicated, the result of the reduplication. So if you have something like this would be something like CV reduplication. So salus, you might have something like salus. So this sa is the reduplicant, and the salus is the base. Anyway, I'm going astray. So let's make some syllables. So we would have something like, prak. We might have something like mot. We might have something like ges. So these would be without this little bit at the start. So far so normal. But then we might also have something like kiris or sakrat or munal, something like this. And this is how we would divide this. The stress is always going to be on the second part, the second phonetic syllable. So this is what we're looking at for the proto-language. And as a preview, what we'll probably do in the descendant languages is neutralize all of these initial vowels. Sakrat, manal, and then we'll eventually go to skrat, nal, and at any point we could do fun things. So you might have something like tutan, which goes to patan, which turns into an initial geminate, tan. And because initial geminates are very, very, very hard to hear, this could be reinterpreted as some kind of tense consonant, maybe like Korean has, which might be the source of high tone at some point. So yeah, these are all things that are sort of always open to us as we go through this. And what we're going to do is make enough of these so that with slightly different grammars and phonologies, so that we can have a lot of fun stuff to do with the call languages. And at some point, we are going to do some world building, and I foresee maps. I foresee maps coming in, and essentially we're gonna live in this. We're gonna live in this world for a while, at least, because the more you do in a kind of con world, the more fun it gets, because the things start interacting with each other in all sorts of ways, and possibilities open up. So this is basically what I'm thinking, but I think we need to have a little bit more fun in the consonant system. So another thing I'm guilty of is constantly making systems with no voicing contrasts. So let's break that pattern. So let's do something like pa ba ta da ka ga. I think we should have a velar nasal in here because it would be fun. Let's get h in as well. What else do we want? What else do we want? I'm wondering if we want to do something even... You know what I want to do? I want a three-way phonation contrast, but I don't know if I want it in the proto-language. So what I mean by three-way phonation contrast is, well, I should first explain phonation. So we have, if you've heard me yammer on about anything related to phonetics, you've probably heard me talk about voicing before. The vibration of the vocal folds in the production of a speech sound, the difference between s and z. So that is a contrast in phonation. And there are other kinds of contrast in phonation other than voiced versus unvoiced. One thing that one of these would be aspiration, which those of us who have gone through an introductory linguistics class taught in English usually come across this pretty early. So it's the difference between the P in pin versus the P in spin. And if my pop filter is doing its job, which I very much suspect that it is not, the contrast between those will be lessened. But there is a puff of air that comes after voiceless stops in certain contexts in English, and pin is one of those contexts. Anyway, so that's a three-way phonation contrast. So I was thinking we could have something like that. We could have voicing, b, voicelessness, pa, and aspiration, pa, all coexisting as contrasts. But what I think we should do, and Alethea has said it, let's make that actually develop diachronically. Because what we can do is we can have aspiration come out of things like S stop clusters. And so I believe that can happen. I'm not sure. I don't have a reference off the top of my head. Maybe Alethea does. Alethea, do you know of any cases where where aspiration has developed out of consonant clusters? And if you are on YouTube and watching this later and you know something, leave it in the comments. But I basically want to really dive into the history of this sort of Southeast Asian linguistic area, which includes a few different language families, and look at the historical phonology and see what's happened, and kind of use that as inspiration to make this a kind of natural, a naturalistic language family. Although I don't want us to stick too close to it. It's something just nice to get inspiration from a different area. There's pre-aspiration in Icelandic, and there's also pre-aspiration in Scottish Gaelic as well, which is kind of interesting because there might be some kind of like mini linguistic area going on there. Although that just came out of an earlier kind of Fortis Lenis contrast in the Goidelic languages, because in Irish you don't get that. You just have aspirated, unaspirated. Yeah, interesting. Sorry, I went off on my own little tangent there. So we could do anything like that. I think that we want to get some nice phonation contrasts in the descendant languages. Maybe we could even get a 4-way contrast like Sanskrit, where we have breathy voice as well, bah, that kind of thing. Who knows? We have lots of possibilities open to us. I'm going to have to sadly end this soon. I just wanted to kind of lay out the plan for this language family here, and we're going to be developing it more as we go. But basically, we want this kind of phonology. We may play with it. What we'll probably do next time is get a word generator up, like Lexifer or something, and create some phonological shapes and just see what looks good. Maybe we want a little bit more fun in the vowel space. Maybe we want a little bit more fun in the consonant space. And then we're going to make this analytic. And this is something that you very rarely see in conlangs. I don't know why. I even constantly get pulled away from making analytic languages. Analytic languages, languages where grammatical relations are expressed essentially by ordering of elements, word order, rather than things like inflection. I always get pulled away from these these analytic languages and toward synthetic languages. I'm going to stand my ground here, and we're going to keep this up. And then we're going to have fun with we're going to have a lot of fun with historical phonology. So that's the main plan. I'm sorry I have to end this relatively, make this a relatively short session. Sadly, I have another pressing engagement to go to, but let me just end this. Let me end this by speaking to the camera. For those who are joining on YouTube, thanks so much for joining us. You are going to see a lot more of this language family now that we've sort of laid the groundwork and seen where we're going to go. You're going to see a lot more of this in the future. So check it out, like, subscribe, etc., because you'll see a lot more. And if you haven't seen it, we also have another playlist where we're developing a very, very different language family. So we'll put a link to that in the description as well. Okay. I think that's good. Thank you everyone so much. Oh, I'm just reading what Alethea's written here. Icelandic has pre-aspiration from geminates. Oh, interesting. Yeah, maybe we could do that. Pre-aspiration, incidentally, sounds like bahta, something like that, instead of bata. So the H-ness goes before the consonant. Okay, wow, whirlwind tour, but I think we've done well today. And I'm hearing from a lot of people that the stream time is not super convenient. I know we have people in all sorts of different time zones, so it's very hard to find a time that works for everyone. Now that I've been doing 2 streams a week, perhaps there's some wiggle room to put one at a different time. So I'm going to be playing with that. I'm going to sort of be seeing what works, and as my schedule opens up and becomes more free, then there will be a lot more opportunity to play around with that. But I want to just thank everyone so much for coming along and having fun with us today. And we will be back next week on Tuesday, and what will we be doing? We'll be conlanging for sure. And we'll be hoping to get to 500 subscribers on YouTube within the next little while, not for my own ego or anything, but because it's at that point that the community tools get opened up, and then I can send things like send messages to you and ask what you're interested in seeing and this kind of thing. It's a sort of convenient way of doing that. So thumbs firmly up to all of you. Thanks again, and we will see you on Tuesday.